Did you know that your financial reality is nothing more than a detailed echo, a living photograph of your past assumptions and internal conversations? In this video, you will discover how to consciously develop the source image within your own imagination, dissolving the myth of external limitations and unlocking a natural, effortless flow of abundance that feels like remembering a truth you'd simply forgotten. This is where it begins, not with frantic action, but with a quiet, seismic shift in the privacy of your own mind, where you realize every dollar, every opportunity, and every resource is first conceived as a feeling of already having it. This is the moment you stop chasing and start receiving, as you understand that the world rearranges itself to match the dominant story you tell yourself in the theater of your thoughts. This is why it matters to examine the unnoticed narrative you've been scripting about money, perhaps one of struggle and scarcity, which has been faithfully projected onto the screen of your life like an old, looping film. This is how the old story crumbles when you deliberately assume the consciousness of wealth, wearing it as comfortably as your own skin, until the external world has no choice but to conform to your new, internal reality. This is the turning point where you, like Neville Goddard taught, live in the end of your desire, feeling the deep relief and gratitude of a wish fulfilled before a single external condition has changed. This is where illusion fades and you see the bank statement, the job, and the market not as masters, but as mirrors, reflecting back the sum total of your faith and inner state of being. This is the silent command you issue from the kingdom within, where imagining a conversation with a financial advisor as a wealthy client begins to reshape your confidence and opportunities in the outer world. This is the power of a single, sustained assumption, more potent than years of labor done from a state of lack, because it works on the causal plane of reality itself. This is the practice of mentally walking the streets of your life as the person who has already achieved financial peace, hearing your own voice speak with the calm authority of someone whose needs are met. This is the emotional bridge you build, where the joy and security of the fulfilled goal are felt so vividly in your imagination that they become facts in your consciousness, undeniable and real to you. This is the discipline of shutting out the sensory evidence of what is, and falling asleep night after night feeling the texture of your new, lavish life, as real as the pillow beneath your head. This is where seeds are sown in the fertile darkness of your subconscious, seeds that must grow and burst forth into your visible world, pushing aside old circumstances to make their appearance known. This is not mystical bypassing, but the fundamental mechanics of creation, where your imagination is the workshop and your feeling is the tool that forges your future. This is how a man, once bankrupt, sat in his small room and felt the weight of a gold Rolex on his wrist and the texture of a fine wool suit, scripting detailed letters of thanks to fictional investors, until the feeling became so natural the investors appeared. This is why your current reality will begin to resist you, throwing up old doubts and apparent setbacks, which are merely the death throes of the former story being cleared away to make room for the new. This is the journey inward, where you become the version of you that the wish fulfilled has already crafted, and from that elevated state, all actions are inspired, all decisions are clear, and all paths are magnetized toward abundance. This is the point of no return, where your imagination is no longer a fantasy playground, but the sacred factory of your fate, and you its sole conscious overseer. This is the truth you must accept, that financial abundance is your birthright, a state awaiting your claim not through struggle, but through the simple, profound act of assuming it is already so. Can you imagine that your conscious mind is merely a tenant in a vast subconscious estate, where every belief about money you've ever passively accepted has been laid down like an unshakable foundation for your life's structure? This is where construction truly begins, deep in the fertile soil of your unaware self, where the blueprints of possible and impossible were drawn long before you ever thought to question the architect. This is how the walls of your current financial experience were built, brick by invisible brick, from childhood observations and societal whispers that told you money is scarce or that wealth is corrupt. This is the silent power of those buried assumptions, which operate like gravitational laws on your decisions, pulling you toward outcomes that perfectly match your hidden inner design, whether a windfall or a shortfall. This is why you must become the archaeological dig of your own soul, carefully excavating those core beliefs with the gentle tools of self-observation and questioning. This is the moment you discover a foundational stone etched with "hard work equals money," and realize it has condemned you to a life of trading time for dollars, never allowing true passive abundance. This is where truth breaks through the concrete, revealing that you are not a prisoner of this blueprint, but its original drafter, possessing the power to redraw every line with the fierce ink of your revised assumptions. This is the alchemical fire where old, limiting designs are held in the flame of awareness until they soften, melt, and become malleable to the touch of your new intention. This is the precise act of revising your past, not as a historical fact, but as a living memory whose emotional charge you can alter right now, thus changing its creative power. This is how a woman, who always knew she'd be poor, revisited a memory of her mother's anxiety over bills, and mentally rewrote the scene, hearing her mother laugh with relief as she found an unexpected check in the mail. This is the turning point where the subconscious, once a stubborn keeper of the old plans, becomes your greatest ally, faithfully executing the new specifications you impress upon it with feeling. This is where illusion fades from the world you see, as you understand that the real world is only the projection room, while your subconscious mind is the film library containing every possible scenario. This is the disciplined architect you now become, deliberately selecting the film of financial ease and playing it on loop within, until its images feel more familiar than the barren landscape outside your window. This is the power of mental discourse, where you consciously converse with yourself as the person who navigates life with effortless financial grace, answering every old fearful thought with the calm logic of your new truth. This is why your outer world will seem to lag, because the old structure must be disassembled beam by beam, even as the new, gleaming mansion of your assumed abundance is already complete in the unseen. This is the pressure of transformation, where the discord between your new inner blueprint and the old outer facade creates a divine tension that the universe must resolve. This is how synchronicity is born, as your revised internal design sends out invisible orders, arranging chance encounters, sudden ideas, and unexpected offers to match the new financial pattern. This is the bridge between worlds, where your persistent inner assumption acts as a magnetic force, pulling circumstances, people, and resources from the unseen onto the stage of your visible life. This is the proof you will witness, as one by one, the characters and events necessary to fulfill your new blueprint enter your scene, as if called by a silent director. This is the ultimate realization, that your financial reality has always been and will always be a perfect and neutral reproduction of the inner reality you have consented to live within. Picture for a moment a silent inner chamber, where your unspoken convictions about money sit enthroned, governing every financial breath you take with the absolute authority of forgotten kings. This is the sanctum you now enter with the torch of awareness, its flame casting long, dancing shadows on walls inscribed with ancient decrees like, "Money is the root of all evil," or "Rich people are lonely." This is how these phantom rulers maintain their power, by remaining unseen and unchallenged, whispering their narratives through your spontaneous reactions and gut feelings about opportunity and risk. This is the visceral shock of recognition when you hear your own voice decline a possibility not by logic, but by an automatic, deep-seated feeling of, "That's not for someone like me." This is where truth breaks through the dynasty of lack, as you realize each assumption is not a truth, but a story you inherited and then perpetuated with the weight of your own repeated, unconscious consent. This is the daring act of dethronement, where you approach each regal belief, not with anger, but with the quiet authority of your sovereign self, and simply revoke its crown. This is the emotional alchemy of replacing "I must struggle" with "wealth flows to me easily," and actually feeling the physiological shift in your body as the new decree takes its seat. This is why it matters to speak your new assumptions aloud in the privacy of this chamber, for your own ears to hear and your subconscious to record, until the echo becomes the only voice that remains. This is the turning point where you take a memory of financial failure and gently re-script it in your mind, not to deny the past event, but to drain it of its power to define your future. This is how a man who assumed he was bad with numbers began to see himself calmly understanding spreadsheets and investment terms, until he naturally enrolled in a course and found the concepts effortlessly clicking into place. This is where illusion fades from your self-concept, as you consciously assume the title of the one who is wise with money, and watch your behavior unconsciously align to match this new identity. This is the power of a single, focused session in this chamber, where you saturate your senses with the feeling tones of your wish fulfilled, the security, the freedom, the generosity, until they become your normal emotional climate. This is the discipline of guarding this sacred mental space, refusing entry to the old, fearful thoughts, and instead entertaining only those inner conversations that support the reign of your new assumptions. This is how the external world, which is but a servant to this inner court, begins to receive new orders and must therefore rearrange circumstances to reflect the changed governance within. This is the initial evidence you will see, perhaps as an unexpected refund, a sudden invitation, or an intuitive idea that carries the scent of your new financial story. This is the pressure of the new kingdom asserting itself, where old financial relationships may strain or fall away, making room for alliances that resonate with your ascended frequency of abundance. This is the silent revolution, where your bank balance is not the cause, but the lagging indicator, the last citizen to bow to the new ruler you have become in the chamber of your own mind. This is the profound understanding that you are never at the mercy of a capricious economic world, but are always experiencing the perfect and faithful manifestation of whatever assumptions hold power in your innermost being. Now consider this. That raw, unvarnished feeling is the golden solvent that dissolves the illusion of separation between you and your desire, merging the dreamer with the dream in a single, liquid moment of perfected reality. This is where your wish ceases to be a distant object of longing and becomes a present, internal possession, carried not in your pocket, but in your very bloodstream as a tangible frequency of joy and fulfillment. This is the precise mechanism Neville Goddard called living in the end, where you don the emotional state of the fulfilled goal so completely that your senses are tricked into testifying to its truth, thereby commanding the universe to align. This is how you walk through your current apartment but feel the expansive serenity of your future home, your fingers brushing against imaginary granite countertops with a satisfaction so real it leaves you breathless. This is why it matters to capture the feeling after the miracle, the quiet sigh of relief when the debt is cleared, not the anxious struggle of scraping payments together. For the feeling is the seed containing the entire tree of manifestation. This is the turning point where you stop visualizing sterile images and instead plunge into the ocean of the accompanying emotion, letting the waves of gratitude and peace wash over you until you are baptized in a new state of being. This is where illusion fades from your practice, as you understand that a dry intellectual affirmation spoken without feeling is like planting a plastic flower. It has the form, but none of the life-generating power. This is the intimate ritual of feeling the crisp texture of new currency in your hands, hearing the clink of a toast to your success in your mind's ear, and smelling the salt air from the balcony of your wish fulfilled, all before you sleep. This is how a woman, buried under medical bills, ceased her frantic visualizing and instead sank nightly into the profound, bodily sensation of being debt-free, a feeling so liberating it brought tears to her eyes, and within weeks an old insurance dispute resolved in her favor. This is the power of a single sustained feeling, which acts as a homing beacon to the infinite intelligence of the universe, pulling toward you the specific people and circumstances encoded within that emotional signature. This is the bridge you build from the barren shore of what is to the fertile land of what is to be. And every step across is taken not with your physical feet, but with the unwavering conviction of your heart's knowing. This is the discipline of returning to this feeling 1,000 times a day, not as a chore, but as a refuge, a secret garden you tend within, where the fruit of your desire already hangs heavy from the vine. This is where your outer world becomes a ghostly echo, a shadow slowly adjusting to the brilliant, substantial form of your inner emotional reality, which is the only true reality there is. This is the pressure your persistent feeling exerts on the malleable substance of time and space, bending events into the pattern of your fulfillment with an irresistible, silent force. This is how synchronicities multiply, not as random accidents, but as logical, inevitable responses to the new emotional gravity you have established at the center of your being. This is the moment you realize your feelings are not reactions to life, but the very causes of life's unfolding drama, and you are no longer a spectator, but the playwright composing with emotional ink. This is the proof that emerges when you find yourself acting from a place of calm ownership rather than desperate seeking, and opportunities seem to find you as if magnetized by your inner stillness. This is the ultimate alchemy. You are the crucible, your desire is the base metal, and your feeling is the philosopher's stone that transforms the dream into the flesh and blood of your lived experience. Suppose you discover that your imagination is not a factory for fantasies, but a time machine capable of pulling a memory from a future so real and so detailed that it bleeds into your present, coloring your now with the certainty of what is to come. This is where you stop begging the future to arrive and instead begin to reminisce about it, speaking of your financial abundance in the past tense as a beautiful, completed event you are fondly recalling. This is the art of mental time travel, where you close your eyes and walk through a day that hasn't happened yet, touching the solid oak of your new office desk, feeling the weight of a successful contract in your hands, and hearing the congratulations of colleagues as a familiar, remembered sound. This is why it matters to imbue this memory with the mundane, sensory-rich details of normal life. The smell of coffee in your new kitchen, the specific font on your banking app showing a new balance, because familiarity breeds belief in the subconscious mind. This is the turning point where your longing transforms into nostalgia, a potent emotional cocktail of joy and gratitude for something your senses have not yet perceived in the so-called external world. This is where illusion fades from the concept of time, as you understand that all moments exist now, and you are simply shifting your awareness to dwell within the one where your wish is already fulfilled. This is the disciplined practice of scripting your day from the perspective of this remembered future, writing in a journal as the person who has already achieved the goal, describing their thoughts and minor annoyances with the casualness of lived experience. This is how an entrepreneur, while still in a struggling startup, began each morning by remembering the thrilling press conference announcing their company's acquisition, feeling the steady confidence of that version of himself, until it became his dominant state. This is the power of this backward-looking forward thought, which plants a finish line in your psychological landscape and compels all your mental and physical energies to flow toward that point as an inevitable homecoming. This is the bridge between timelines you consciously walk, carrying the emotional proof of your success back into your present moment, thereby making your current doubts feel foreign and absurd. This is where your present actions become inspired rather than forced, as you naturally begin to make choices that align with the person who possesses that rich memory, moving with a graceful efficiency that surprises you. This is the pressure this memory creates in the pliable field of possibility, collapsing infinite potential into the single definite event you have already experienced and cherished in your mind. This is how doors you never noticed begin to creak open, presenting you with options and resources that perfectly service the storyline of the future you are already fondly remembering. This is the silent command issued to the universe, that the events must conform to the memory, not the other way around, for the memory is treated as the truer, more substantial fact. This is the evidence that arrives as a profound sense of déjà vu, where situations in your physical reality begin to eerily resemble scenes from your mental recollections, confirming you are on the correct path. This is the moment you realize you are not creating something new, but rather remembering yourself into a version of your life that always existed, waiting for you to claim it with the focus of your awareness. This is the surrender of effort, for when you possess a crystal-clear memory of something, You no longer strive for it. You simply relax into the knowing that it is yours, and your entire demeanor broadcasts that unshakable truth. This is the ultimate integration, where the remembered future and the experienced present fuse into one seamless timeline, and you live with the quiet, unassailable confidence of someone who has already seen the happy ending. Envision a world where each night, as you cross the threshold into sleep, you are granted the master keys to the universe's workshop, and your final conscious feeling is the blueprint from which the next day's reality will be faithfully constructed. This is the sacred, drowsy interval where reason releases its grip and your subconscious mind stands utterly receptive, thirsty for the impressions you choose to stamp upon its yielding substance. This is how you become the nocturnal architect, deliberately planting a single, potent scene that implies the fulfillment of your wish, perhaps feeling the firm handshake of a benefactor or signing your name on a document of profound ownership. This is why it matters to condense your desire into a fleeting moment charged with the emotion of accomplishment, a capsule of lived truth that you swallow as you drift into the depths, allowing it to dissolve in the darkness and permeate your entire being. This is the turning point where your bed becomes an altar, and the act of falling asleep transforms into the most potent, creative ritual, more powerful than any daytime affirmation, because it bypasses the critical, doubting mind entirely. This is where illusion fades from the concept of action, as you understand that this passive, receptive state is the most active work you can do, for it directly programs the foundation of your coming days. This is the disciplined artistry of selecting a scene so natural and so brief that it feels like a memory rather than a desperate fabrication, a simple snapshot of life after the struggle has been resolved. This is how a writer, longing for publication, nightly felt the specific weight and texture of her published novel in her hands, running her fingers over the embossed title on the cover just before sleep took her. And within months, a publisher's offer mirrored that exact sensory detail. This is the power of the lullaby method, where you gently lull your senses into accepting the reality of the wish fulfilled, singing a silent song of satisfaction to your soul until it can dream of nothing else. This is the bridge between worlds you cross unconscious, carrying the seed of your fulfilled state into the fertile void where all potentials gestate, ensuring it is the one that gains life and momentum. This is where your waking hours become but a harvesting of what you planted in the garden of the night. And you move through your day with a subtle, unshakable expectation of encountering evidence. This is the pressure this ritual exerts on the malleable clay of circumstance, shaping encounters and conversations throughout your day to conform to the theme you impregnated your subconscious with. This is how morning inspiration strikes, not as a random thought, but as a direct download from the architect within, providing you with clear, logical steps that perfectly align with your night-born assumption. This is the silent command issued in vulnerability, that your deepest, most impressionable self must accept this gift of a new truth, and from that acceptance, a new world must unfold. This is the evidence you witness in seemingly random events, a song lyric, a stranger's comment, a sudden email, all echoing the core sentiment of the scene you enacted in the twilight. This is the moment you realize that sleep is not an escape from creation, but its most intimate chamber, where you hold a private audience with the infinite and show it exactly what version of reality you wish to wake up within. This is the surrender of forcing, for the ritual is complete. The moment you lose consciousness, your job is not to monitor growth, but to trust the seed is now sown in the most fertile ground imaginable. This is the profound simplification of your practice. All complexity is distilled into one feeling-laden moment at day's end, making you a consistent, powerful creator by the very design of your human biology. This is the ultimate empowerment, recognizing that you are never a victim of your days, for you have been, each night, their silent, sovereign architect. Think of the moment when the iron weight of how finally slips from your ankles, and you realize your only task is to embody the end, leaving the universe's infinite intelligence to orchestrate the mechanics of manifestation through means you cannot possibly foresee. This is the liberation from the tyranny of the logical mind, which demands a blueprint and a sweat equity plan, blind to the truth that creation happens from the finished state, not toward it through force of will. This is where you stop mapping every step and instead fall in love with the destination itself, wearing its fulfillment as your mental and emotional garment so naturally that the path unfolds beneath your feet as if by magic. This is why it matters to cease all mental bargaining and frantic searching, for those actions stem from a state of lack and only propagate more lack, like digging a deeper hole to find a ladder. This is the turning point where you burn the old bridge of reasonable action and stand calmly on the shore of your wish fulfilled, knowing with a quiet certitude that a new, more elegant bridge will appear from the mist. This is where illusion fades from the concept of effort, as you understand that inspired action will feel effortless, flowing from you like a melody from a singer, not the grueling haul of a laborer. This is the disciplined art of non-interference, where you catch yourself scheming and gently return your focus to the sweetness of the fulfilled desire, allowing providence to handle the logistics. This is how a man, desperate to sell his house, stopped frantically staging and advertising, and instead sat each evening in his living room feeling the profound relief and joy of having already sold it. The first real buyer appeared days later, meeting his exact terms without hesitation. This is the power of divine indifference, a state not of apathy, but of supreme confidence where you are unmoved by the apparent absence of evidence, because your inner reality is so vivid it makes the outer world seem ghostly. This is the bridge of faith you walk, where every sensory fact that denies your assumption is seen as mere scenery on a movie set, irrelevant to the producer who knows the ending is already in the can. This is where your environment becomes a conspiracy of support, as your sustained assumption magnetizes and repels people and situations, automatically arranging a chain of events that leads to your goal. This is the pressure your unwavering end state exerts on the quantum field, collapsing waves of possibility into the single particle of events that conform to your conviction. This is how miracles are engineered, not as violations of natural law, but as the logical, inevitable outcomes of operating from a cause plane far deeper than the world of effects. This is the silent command of surrender. You hand the universe the what and the why, and you completely relinquish the how, thereby opening the door to solutions more brilliant than your limited mind could conceive. This is the evidence that arrives as sudden intuition, a nudge to call an old acquaintance, an urge to turn down a particular street, leading you directly to the opportunity that materializes your assumption. This is the moment you realize that your previous striving was not dedication, but a lack of faith, a desperate attempt to build with your own hands what can only be gifted by the cosmos when you assume the state of the receiver. This is the profound shift in identity. You are no longer the seeker, but the possessor. And from that elevated plateau, all necessary actions are revealed to you as natural expressions of who you have become. This is the ultimate trust exercise with reality itself, proving that when you fully occupy the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the universe has no choice but to mirror that fulfillment in the theater of your life. Ask yourself what happens when your inner state shifts so completely that the universe must compose a symphony of seemingly random events, each note a perfect coincidence that harmonizes to deliver the melody of your fulfilled desire. This is the moment you begin to perceive the hidden order behind chance encounters, unexpected phone calls, and fortuitous mistakes, recognizing them not as luck but as the logical, intelligent response to your new vibrational signature. This is where you move from hoping for miracles to expecting orchestration, watching with quiet awe as people you haven't spoken to in years reach out with precisely the information or opportunity you require. This is why it matters to release the urge to micromanage every detail, for your single-pointed assumption is the conductor, and the infinite intelligence of life is the orchestra, capable of arrangements far beyond your sheet music. This is the turning point where a missed flight or a sudden cancellation is no longer a frustrating obstacle, but a mysterious redirect, guiding you toward a more aligned connection you couldn't have planned. This is where illusion fades from the concept of isolation, as you see yourself as a central node in a vast, responsive network where every player is subtly directed to play their part in your unfolding story. This is the disciplined practice of gratitude for these chance events, acknowledging each one as a confirming nod from the universe, which further strengthens your faith and amplifies the signal you broadcast. This is how an artist, having assumed the feeling of her successful gallery opening, began to encounter patrons in coffee shops, receive unexpected social media tags from influencers in her niche, and find discounted supplies, all within a single, bewildering week. This is the power of your assumption as a tuning fork, striking a note that resonates through the fabric of reality and summons all elements attuned to that frequency, arranging them into a coherent song of manifestation. This is the bridge between your inner command and outer confirmation, where the world itself seems to speak to you through billboards, song lyrics, and overheard conversations, all echoing the theme of your wish fulfilled. This is where your intuition becomes a crystal-clear radio, receiving direct instructions from this symphony, guiding you to turn left instead of right, to speak up in a meeting, or to pause on a specific website. This is the pressure your conviction exerts on the timeline, bending causality to create shortcuts and serendipitous links that bypass ordinary linear struggle. This is how resources are magnetized, as money arrives from forgotten debts, gifts from unlikely sources, or ideas that generate value with minimal strain, all playing their note in the financial chord you've composed within. This is the silent command to the cosmos, that your reality must be coherent, and thus any element dissonant with your assumption must either transform, exit your stage, or reveal its hidden harmony. This is the evidence that feels like living in a personalized novel, where the plot consistently advances your cause, and you are both the author and the delighted reader, surprised by the clever twists. This is the moment you realize there are no true accidents, only divine appointments you lack the perspective to recognize. And now you see the web connecting every seemingly disparate event. This is the surrender to a grander intelligence, where you do less and observe more, finding yourself in the right place at the right time with the right words, as if rehearsed by an unseen director. This is the ultimate collaboration between your focused desire and the animating genius of the universe, proving that when you change your state, you change the entire world script around you. Consider the possibility that every desire you entertain is a living seed, and your consciousness is the fertile soil where it must be planted and tended until it breaks through the surface of your visible world as an undeniable fact. This is the sacred horticulture of the mind, where you are both gardener and greenhouse, responsible for selecting robust seeds of abundance, while diligently weeding out the invasive thoughts of lack and limitation that choke their growth. This is where you learn the critical difference between casually wishing and intentionally planting. For a wish is a seed held in your hand, while planting is the act of burying it within the fertile darkness of your assumption and walking away in faith. This is why it matters to protect your mental garden from the harsh frost of doubt and the trampling feet of contrary conversations, building a serene enclosure where your chosen concepts can germinate in peace. This is the turning point where you stop scattering cheap, generic seeds of "I want money" and instead plant a specific, vibrant seed of "I am enjoying the steady flow of residual income from my fulfilled enterprise." This is where illusion fades from the process of growth, as you understand that the sprout appears in its own time, and your impatience does not speed the harvest, but rather poisons the soil with anxiety. This is the disciplined tenderness of watering your seed with the living water of feeling, visiting your garden daily, not to dig it up and check for roots, but to bask in the sun of the fulfilled end and feel the joy of the bloom already real. This is how an investor, planting the seed of perfect aligned opportunities find me, began to calmly reject frenetic deals while feeling deep gratitude for the unseen right one, until a colleague's casual lunch remark unveiled a private equity option tailored to his exact criteria. This is the power of a well-tended concept, which develops a root system in the subconscious so vast and strong that it must eventually disrupt the surface world, cracking the concrete of old circumstances to reach the light. This is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, where your faithful tending is the energy that lifts the plant from the realm of idea into the realm of form, following natural law. This is where your environment becomes a reflection of your garden's health, as barren relationships and dead-end jobs naturally fall away like autumn leaves, making space for new growth that matches your cultivation. This is the pressure the growing seed exerts from below, creating a divine discontent with any current condition that does not match the lushness of the future harvest you know is coming. This is how seasons work in your favor, for there is a period of invisible development where your only task is to maintain the climate of faith, trusting the intelligence within the seed to know how to become the magnificent plant. This is the silent command to nature itself that life must express, and your confidently planted concept is a law of life that cannot return to you void, but must fulfill its inherent purpose to manifest. This is the evidence you witness first internally, as a strange, quiet knowing settles over you, replacing frantic desire with the patient certainty of a farmer who has sown good seed after a deep rain. This is the moment you realize you are not building anything from scratch, but merely cooperating with a creative force that always seeks to clothe itself in the forms of your concentrated, feeling-backed assumptions. This is the surrender to the process, where you appreciate the value of the hidden growth period, for it is where the real miracle of transformation occurs, unseen and undisturbed. This is the ultimate lesson in trust and timing, proving that your role is to plant and feel the harvest, not to engineer the cellular miracle of the seeds unfolding, which is the prerogative of the infinite life within you. What if you knew that wealth is not a number in an account, but a frequency of being, a specific way of walking through the world, where your every thought, gesture, and reaction broadcasts the unshakable knowing that you are an open channel for infinite supply? This is the moment you stop acting abundant and start being abundance itself, allowing the vibration of affluence to recalibrate your very cells until generosity and receptivity become your autonomic reflexes. This is where your posture changes, not from forced confidence, but from a deep-seated relaxation that comes from the inner certainty that all needs are met now and forevermore, softening your shoulders and easing the lines on your face. This is why it matters to speak from this embodied state, letting your words carry the quiet authority of someone discussing a fait accompli, not the hesitant hope of a beggar pleading for a future possibility. This is the turning point, where you handle the money you do have with reverence and joy, whether it's a single dollar or 1,000, because you see it as a tangible symbol of the limitless flow you are now aligned with. This is where illusion fades from the concept of ownership, as you realize you are not a hoarder of resources but a steward of energy, and your true wealth is measured by your capacity to circulate value with trust and ease. This is the disciplined practice of making decisions from this embodied frequency, choosing what feels expansive and aligned over what feels constricting and fearful, even when logic screams otherwise. This is how a woman, embodying the frequency of a philanthropist, began automatically rounding up her purchases to donate the change, an action that felt natural and joyful, and within months, a surprise inheritance allowed her to fund a community project fully. This is the power of this living vibration, which rewires your perception so you consistently notice and attract opportunities for gain, while former sources of financial anxiety simply lose their magnetic pull on your attention. This is the bridge between identity and manifestation, for when you fully become the version of you that has the wish fulfilled, the universe has no other choice but to reflect that completed identity back in tangible form. This is where your daily rituals become sacred confirmations, from savoring your morning coffee in a beautiful cup to intentionally appreciating the comfort of your home, all reinforcing the feeling of being already lavishly provided for. This is the pressure this embodiment exerts on stagnant circumstances, forcing a crisis in any area of your life that contradicts the truth of your new, wealthy consciousness, compelling either transformation or dissolution. This is how your very aura changes, becoming a silent invitation that draws people, ideas, and resources of a similar prosperous nature, while repelling those that would deplete your energy or question your worth. This is the silent command broadcast from your entire being, that you are a living magnet for prosperity, and the field of potential must organize itself to match the signal you are now continuously emitting. This is the evidence you see in the mirror first, a light in your own eyes that speaks of inner peace and unassailable worth, long before any external financial milestone is reached. This is the moment you realize that true wealth is a state of consciousness that creates money, not the other way around. And you have stepped into the causal realm where your state dictates your reality. This is the surrender of the poverty identity, where you no longer find comfort in stories of struggle or camaraderie in lack, because those narratives feel foreign to the wealthy self you have now become. This is the ultimate freedom, where financial abundance is a natural byproduct of your embodied state, and you live with the effortless grace of someone for whom money is a delightful flowing consequence of who you are. Imagine living in a state where your most powerful dialogue is not spoken aloud, but conducted in the sacred privacy of your own mind, a continuous, silent conversation with yourself that writes the script of your life with every whispered thought and felt reaction. This is the intimate broadcast studio where you are both the sole announcer and the entire audience, and the quality of your internal monologue directly determines whether your outer world plays a symphony of lack or an opera of abundance. This is where you become a vigilant editor of this inner speech, catching the subtle, undermining murmurs of, "I can't afford this," or "it's too risky," and deliberately rewriting them into the confident narrative of, "I am divinely supported, and opportunities always find me." This is why it matters to infuse this private dialogue with the emotional tone of gratitude and ownership. For each mental sentence is a decree that your subconscious accepts as a command to fulfill. This is the turning point where you realize your internal conversations are not just commentary on reality, but the very architects of it, constructing your tomorrows from the raw materials of today's habitual thoughts. This is where illusion fades from the idea of external blame, as you see how a day of internal complaints about high prices and unfair systems directly manifests as more financial friction and blocked paths. This is the disciplined art of mental fidelity, where you commit to a new loving dialogue with yourself about money, speaking to yourself as your own most trusted financial advisor who knows your infinite worth and potential. This is how a freelance designer, plagued by internal stories of feast or famine instability, began a strict practice of mentally thanking himself for his consistent, high-value work and his reliable, elegant clients, and his calendar filled with retainer contracts within 2 quarters. This is the power of a redirected inner voice, which slowly but irrevocably changes your fundamental assumptions, and thus alters the magnetic core of your being, attracting circumstances that resonate with your new internal story. This is the bridge between thought and thing, where your silent, repetitive conversations build neural pathways of expectation so strong they must eventually materialize as matching experiences in your 3-dimensional world. This is where your external conversations naturally align, as you find yourself speaking words of affirmation and opportunity without effort, because they simply reflect the prosperous inner dialogue that has become your default setting. This is the pressure this new narrative exerts on old, ingrained beliefs, creating a cognitive dissonance that can only be resolved by the arrival of external evidence that validates your updated internal script. This is how your intuition strengthens, becoming the clear voice of this new inner conversation, guiding you to say yes or no, with a conviction that seems to come from a deeper, wiser version of you. This is the silent command issued through the microphone of your mind, that your reality must conform to the story you tell yourself in your most unguarded moments, making you the undeniable author of your fate. This is the evidence you hear first in your own head, the old, fearful voice growing faint and distant, replaced by a calm, assured narrator describing a life of ease and overflow as a present fact. This is the moment you understand that your mind is never neutral. It is either building your kingdom or reinforcing your prison with every wordless sentence you allow to echo in its chambers. This is the surrender of old mental gossip, where you cease rehashing stories of past failures or future worries, and instead dwell only on the satisfying present-tense dialogue of someone whose needs are met and whose dreams are realized. This is the ultimate creative responsibility, recognizing that your silent conversation is the most important one you will ever have, for it is the direct line to the creative power of the universe that hears everything you imply and feel as truth. See in your mind's eye a scale where on one side sits the flimsy paper currency of your fleeting wishes, and on the other rests the solid gold ingot of your unwavering conviction, the sheer weight of your subconscious certainty, determining which form will materialize in your physical experience. This is the fundamental exchange rate of the universe, where a single ounce of genuine, feeling-back belief holds more purchasing power over reality than a mountain of desperate, hopeful pleas sent out from a state of lack. This is where you audit your inner treasury, discovering that many of your desires are funded with the weak currency of maybe and I hope so. And you resolve to mint only the pure coin of I know it is so from this moment forward. This is why it matters to forge this conviction in the fires of your imagination, repeatedly experiencing your wishes fulfilled until the knowing settles into your bones, becoming a non-negotiable truth more real to you than the temporary evidence of your senses. This is the turning point where your faith ceases to be a theory and becomes an unassailable fact of your own consciousness. A psychological reality so dense it begins to warp the space-time around you, pulling your desire into manifestation. This is where illusion fades from the concept of proof, as you understand that you do not need to see it to believe it. You must believe it so completely that you cannot help but see it everywhere you look. This is the disciplined practice of mental defiance, where you consciously choose to believe in your assumption, even when every headline, bank statement, and logical argument screams otherwise, holding your conviction like a sacred vow. This is how an athlete, convinced of a comeback victory despite a severe injury, spent every rehabilitation session feeling not the pain but the explosive joy of crossing the finish line first. His conviction so potent it orchestrated a recovery timeline that baffled his doctors and attracted a surprise sponsorship. This is the power of conviction as a magnetic force, aligning the hidden gears of causality so that people feel compelled to help you. Resources appear as if from nowhere, and obstacles dissolve not by force, but by divine rearrangement. This is the bridge between the possible and the inevitable, built plank by plank with the sturdy timber of your knowing, until the path is so solid that walking across it feels like remembering your way home. This is where your actions become fearless and precise, not because you have a guarantee, but because your conviction has eliminated all other possibilities from your mental landscape, leaving only the outcome you have already claimed. This is the pressure this golden certainty exerts on the quantum soup of potential, collapsing infinite probabilities into the single definite event that matches the unwavering frequency of your belief. This is how time itself seems to bend, accelerating opportunities and compressing processes that once took years into months or weeks, because the internal resistance of doubt has been removed from the equation. This is the silent command broadcast from the core of your being, that the universe must obey the laws of your deepest convictions, making your subjective certainty the ultimate objective authority in your life. This is the evidence that first appears as a profound inner peace, a stillness in the storm where you no longer check for signs or seek validation, because you carry the proof within you like a hidden treasure. This is the moment you realize that conviction is not a reaction to circumstances, but the cause of them, and you are now rich in the only currency that truly matters for creation. This is the surrender of the need for external agreement, for you no longer require anyone else to validate your truth, finding complete sufficiency in the impregnable fortress of your own belief. This is the ultimate wealth transfer, where you exchange the poverty of doubt for the boundless riches of faith, becoming a sovereign who mints reality with the stamp of your own unquestioned assumption. Recall a time when a single intuitive leap, made in the darkness of not knowing how, carried you across a chasm that logic said was uncrossable, proving that the most critical crossings in life are engineered not by visible plans, but by invisible faith. This is the architectural marvel you are now invited to walk every day. A bridge woven from the filaments of your assumption, anchored in the realm of your wish fulfilled, and extending back to your current moment, strong enough to bear the weight of your entire future. This is where you learn to step onto this unseen structure without needing to see the other side clearly, trusting that each step of persistent feeling and unwavering mental occupancy creates another sturdy plank beneath your feet. This is why it matters to keep your gaze fixed on the destination feeling, not the dizzying void of how beneath you. For looking down into the mechanics invites doubt, which weakens the very fibers of your bridge. This is the turning point where you realize that walking this bridge is not a perilous act of blind faith, but the natural movement of one who already lives in the state of the wish fulfilled, for whom the crossing is a mere formality. This is where illusion fades from the concept of risk, as you understand that the only true danger is remaining on the barren shore of your old story, while the bridge, though unseen, is built from the indestructible material of your own revised consciousness. This is the disciplined practice of ignoring sensory evidence that shouts the bridge isn't there, and instead tuning into the emotional evidence of your success, which is the subtle vibration humming through the entire structure. This is how a couple, dreaming of a home they could not afford, stopped visiting realtor websites and instead spent evenings vividly describing to each other the feeling of cooking in their sunlit new kitchen, walking this unseen bridge until a family member offered them a property at a symbolic price. This is the power of this ethereal construction, which exists in the fourth dimension and therefore predates its physical counterpart, meaning your faithful traversal is what pulls it into the third dimension, stone by stone. This is the bridge that synchronistic events are made of, where a chance meeting or a sudden idea is not luck, but the physical manifestation of a plank you laid down yesterday with your focused feeling. This is where your inspired actions are revealed, for as you walk, you will receive clear, gentle nudges. A book falls off a shelf, a name pops into your head, that are the bridge's way of guiding your steps in the physical world. This is the pressure your forward movement creates, compelling the universe to solidify the path behind and before you, translating your internal assumption into external facts with increasing speed and clarity. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable. For once you are fully committed to the crossing, the universe has no choice but to complete the engineering, rearranging lives and logistics to support your passage. This is the silent command your journey emits, that all forces must cooperate to materialize this bridge, making every resource, person, and circumstance a willing builder in your manifesting project. This is the evidence you feel as a gathering momentum, where small wins begin to accelerate, each one a confirmed section of the bridge now visible and solid under your feet, encouraging the next step. This is the moment you realize you are not walking toward your desire, but from it, and the bridge is not a connection to something distant, but the natural emergence of a reality that already exists in a higher dimension of your own mind. This is the surrender of the need for a blueprint, for the bridge builds itself perfectly in response to the consistency of your vibration, requiring only that you maintain the state of the one who has already arrived. This is the ultimate testament to the law of assumption, that the unseen bridge is the only true one, and crossing it is the art of living from the end until the end becomes all there is. Visualize the chain reaction once your inner assumption reaches critical mass, where the universe can no longer delay the inevitable landslide of evidence and must deliver a harvest so abundant its timing feels miraculous, yet its arrival is as logical as sunrise after a long night. This is the exponential moment where your disciplined mental gardening yields not a single fruit, but an entire orchard of synchronicity. Each ripe opportunity falling into your hands with an ease that feels almost laughable in its perfection. This is where you understand that persistence is not stubborn repetition of an empty affirmation, but the unwavering maintenance of a state of consciousness, a climatic condition you have cultivated within until the outer world must shift to match its fertile pressure. This is why it matters to persist in your assumption, even during the silent, seemingly barren seasons, for that is when the deepest root structures are forming underground, gathering the force needed to break the surface in a sudden, spectacular display of growth. This is the turning point where the first tangible confirmations arrive. The unexpected check, the perfect client call, the solved problem, and you recognize them not as the harvest itself, but as the first green shoots, heralding the coming plenty. This is where illusion fades from the concept of time, as you see that your persistence wasn't about waiting, but about occupying, and the harvest was being assembled in the unseen dimensions all along, maturing to match the exact frequency of your sustained conviction. This is the disciplined art of celebrating these first shoots without slipping back into the anxiety of lack, using each small win as fuel to further solidify your state of already having the grand abundance. This is how an author, persisting in the feeling of being a best-selling writer long before her manuscript was complete, began receiving agent inquiries out of the blue, then a preemptive auction among publishers, culminating in a deal that mirrored her imagined scenario down to the last detail. This is the power of cumulative assumption, where each day lived in the wish fulfilled adds a layer of spiritual mass to your desire, increasing its gravitational pull on corresponding physical circumstances until they are drawn into your orbit irrevocably. This is the bridge between momentum and manifestation, where your persistence generates a velocity of belief that crashes through the final barriers of old reality, sweeping all before it into the new story. This is where your life becomes a cascade of ease, as one favorable event naturally creates the conditions for the next, and you find yourself navigating a flow where opportunities seem to multiply and resources expand as you touch them. This is the pressure your persistent state finally releases, like a seed pod bursting, scattering the tangible results of your inner work across every aspect of your experience, financial and otherwise. This is how the harvest reorganizes your very identity, for you are no longer the person who persisted toward a goal, but the person whose persistence was the proof of the goal's prior existence in your consciousness. This is the silent command your continuity broadcasts, that this state is not a fleeting experiment, but your new eternal address, and the universe must deliver the mail and parcels appropriate to this residence. This is the evidence that saturates your senses, a confluence of events so perfectly aligned, it feels like you're walking through a living dream you once only imagined. Yet now it is solid, tactile, and undeniable. This is the moment you realize persistence is the final test of faith, the ultimate work that feels like no work at all, because it is simply the act of remaining loyal to a truth that exists within you, against all contradictory testimony. This is the surrender to the process's perfect timing, understanding that the harvest comes not when you demand it, but when the fruit is sweetest, and your ability to receive it is most complete. This is the ultimate reward for your spiritual endurance, a world remade in the image of your stubborn, beautiful, and unwavering assumption, proving you were the creator all along. Reflect on how it would feel to speak a word of assumption into the silent chamber of your consciousness, and then, days or weeks later, hear its perfect echo return to you through the voice of a stranger, the text of a contract, or the balance of an account, proving your inner world has its own sound system that broadcasts into the visible. This is the profound delay between cause and effect that most mistake for chance or luck, the sacred interval where your command, once issued in feeling, travels through the medium of the subconscious and gathers the substance necessary to materialize as an answering fact. This is where you become an attentive listener to your own life, training your ear to recognize the echoes of your past assumptions in today's events, understanding that every circumstance is a reverberation of a thought and feeling you have previously entertained. This is why it matters to monitor the quality of the mental words you now speak into the void, where the universe is not a judge but a perfect echo chamber, indifferent to the content, faithfully returning the emotional tone and essence of whatever you emit. This is the turning point where a financial opportunity arrives, wearing the exact disguise you imagined, and you recognize it not as a random gift, but as the sonic return of a specific frequency you broadcast in your state of fulfilled desire. This is where illusion fades from the concept of a silent universe, as you perceive the constant, responsive dialogue between your inner speech and outer reality, where every event is a meaningful reply to a question you posed in the language of assumption. This is the disciplined art of tracing every present condition back to its origin in your own consciousness, not to assign blame, but to claim your creative power and consciously emit a new, more desirable sound. This is how an investor, after assuming the state of insider clarity, found himself overhearing a cryptic conversation in a cafe that echoed the exact market sector he had been mentally dwelling upon, leading him to research and secure a lucrative position before a major shift. This is the power of your internal sound wave, which travels unimpeded by time or space, arranging matter and energy into forms that harmonize with its unique vibrational signature, returning to you as your experienced reality. This is the bridge between your invisible command and its visible confirmation, built by the echo itself, which proves the chamber is real, the law is exact, and you are always heard. This is where your life becomes a biographical study of your own past assumptions, allowing you to forecast future echoes by carefully choosing the thoughts and feelings you amplify in the privacy of your mind today. This is the pressure a new, clear command exerts on the old echoes still bouncing around, canceling out their lingering effects and clearing the acoustic space for a new reality to resonate into being. This is how your confidence solidifies, for when you hear the first faint echo of your new assumption, a supportive comment, a surprising offer, you know the sound has been made and the full reflection is now inevitable. This is the silent symphony you now conduct, where each section of the orchestra, your relationships, finances, and health, begins to play the melody you have been humming to yourself in the quiet moments of your day. This is the evidence that transforms faith into knowledge, as you move from hoping the echo will come to expecting it, and finally to recognizing it instantly, a master of your own creative acoustics. This is the moment you realize you are never unanswered, only sometimes speaking a muddled or contradictory command, and clarity of assumption produces a clarity of echo that leaves no room for doubt. This is the surrender to the law of reciprocity, where you accept total responsibility for the sound you make within, knowing it is the sole determinant of the world that echoes back at you. This is the ultimate feedback loop of creation, where hearing the echo fuels your conviction to speak the command again, more clearly and with greater feeling, amplifying the resonance until your entire life vibrates with the harmony of your wish fulfilled. Hear the quiet shift when the grinding machinery of effort stalls and falls silent, replaced by the smooth hum of allowing, as you realize that striving was the very friction preventing your ship from catching the favorable winds already blowing toward your destination. This is the paradoxical moment where you attain power through release, exchanging the exhausting labor of pushing the river for the graceful art of floating with its current, trusting it knows the way to the ocean of your abundance. This is where you stop identifying as a warrior in a battle for scarcity and instead see yourself as a magnet in a field of plenty, where your only work is to polish your own vibrational surface to increase your attractive pull. This is why it matters to cease the mental gymnastics of figuring out how, for that is the universe's department, and your constant interference only sends a signal of distrust, scrambling the elegant instructions you've already issued through your state of being. This is the turning point where action becomes inspired and effortless, flowing from a place of inner certainty rather than anxious lack, feeling more like following a delightful impulse than executing a grueling plan. This is where illusion fades from the value of suffering, as you see that struggle was never a prerequisite for success, but a consequence of a consciousness that believed it was separate from its desire and had to wrestle it into existence. This is the disciplined practice of inaction, where you consciously choose to do nothing from a state of lack, and instead wait for the unmistakable nudge that arises from the feeling of the wish fulfilled, which always carries perfect timing and precision. This is how a founder, exhausted from forcing his startup, decided to spend a week being the CEO of a thriving company, feeling the calm, making decisions from ease, and returned to find a stalled partnership had suddenly moved forward and a key investor had reached out unprompted. This is the power of surrendered focus, which removes the static of desperation and allows the clear signal of your assumption to be received and acted upon by the countless invisible intelligences that orchestrate manifestation. This is the bridge from tension to traction, where your letting go is not resignation, but the ultimate act of faith that creates a vacuum in the world of effects, which nature must fill with the substance of your assumed reality. This is where synchronicities become your normal navigation system, and you find yourself gliding through days where every red light held a necessary insight and every green light launched you toward a serendipitous meeting. This is the pressure your peace exerts on chaotic circumstances, as your non-resistant state becomes an immovable object around which the old world of struggle must reorganize or dissolve, leaving only coherent, harmonious events in your experience. This is how resources begin to feel inexhaustible, for you are no longer drawing from a limited well with a frantic bucket, but tapping into an infinite stream with an open vessel, receiving ideas, energy, and money in a sustainable flow. This is the silent command of stillness, that by embodying the restful certainty of the end, you command the means to organize themselves perfectly, without your sweat as a required ingredient. This is the evidence you feel in your body first, the unclenching of your jaw, the deepening of your breath. A physical testament that the war is over and you have assumed the peace of the victor who never had to fight. This is the moment you realize that struggle was a story you told yourself to make the delay of your own belief palatable. And now that the story has ended, the delay vanishes with it. This is the surrender of a worn-out identity, releasing the cherished self-image of the gritty survivor for the truer identity of the receptive creator, who knows abundance is a natural state, not a hard-won trophy. This is the ultimate efficiency, where your creative energy is no longer wasted on internal conflict and is instead channeled entirely into the joyful occupancy of your fulfilled destiny, accelerating its materialization beyond any effort you could have designed. Witness the day that your once scattered proofs begin to weave themselves into a coherent tapestry, where every thread, a chance meeting, a solved problem, an unexpected sum, connects to form a breathtaking picture of abundance so detailed it silences the last whispering skeptic within your own mind. This is the moment of convergent clarity, where the universe stops hinting and starts declaring, presenting its testimony in a language so personal and precise you could not have fabricated its elegant design even in your most elaborate daydream. This is where you move from collecting random synchronicities to perceiving the grand narrative they compose, each event a deliberate stitch in the fabric of your new reality, revealing the intelligent pattern that was being woven behind the scenes all along. This is why it matters to acknowledge each thread with gratitude, for your recognition strengthens the weave and accelerates the revelation of the next connected piece, pulling the entire tapestry faster into the visible realm. This is the turning point where your financial story rewrites itself in real time, as a debt forgiven here dovetails with a revenue stream unlocked there, creating a domino effect of solutions that feels like watching a predetermined code execute flawlessly. This is where illusion fades from the concept of isolated events, as you see the invisible hand of your assumption guiding every apparent coincidence, molding separate incidents into a single, undeniable storyline of increase. This is the disciplined art of connecting the dots backward with awe, not analysis, understanding that your role is not to engineer the pattern, but to appreciate its emergence, which in turn attracts more of its kind. This is how a teacher, living in the state of being a celebrated educator, found a rare grant opportunity that perfectly matched her niche, was introduced to the committee head at a random gallery opening, and received the funding in time to launch her dream program, all within a single, fluid sequence. This is the power of cumulative evidence, which acts as a mirror reflecting your changed consciousness back to you, not to prove anything to the outside world, but to solidify your own faith until it becomes unbreakable granite. This is the bridge between belief and knowing, built from the irrefutable planks of personalized proof, where you no longer need to sustain your assumption through force of will because the external world now actively sustains it for you. This is where your past doubts seem like a foreign language, for the tapestry before you is so vivid and interconnected that the old story of lack becomes impossible to mentally revisit, its emotional texture lost to memory. This is the pressure this completed picture exerts on any remaining areas of lack, as the contrast between the new abundance and old lack becomes too glaring for the subconscious to ignore, forcing a final, swift alignment. This is how your environment transforms into a living gallery of your assumptions, where every object, relationship, and bank statement is a displayed exhibit in the museum of your fulfilled desire, each one curated by your past states of consciousness. This is the silent declaration the universe makes through this tapestry, that your assumption has been accepted as law, and its materialization is now a foregone conclusion playing out in exquisite, inevitable detail. This is the evidence that transmutes hope into tangible reality, as you can now point to the woven picture and trace every strand back to a specific moment of focused feeling or revised belief in your inner world. This is the moment you realize you are not interpreting reality, but witnessing the physical projection of your internal film, and the tapestry is the final, beautiful print of the movie you directed in the private theater of your mind. This is the surrender to being proven right by life itself, releasing the need to convince anyone else, as the quiet satisfaction of seeing the weave complete is the only testimony you will ever require. This is the ultimate reward for your persistence. A world so thoroughly rearranged in the image of your wish fulfilled that it becomes the new normal, the foundational canvas from which your next greater desires will effortlessly emerge. Anticipate the moment just before a dam breaks, that pregnant stillness where pressure has built to its apex and the first trickle becomes an inevitable torrent. Realizing your financial life operates on this same hydraulic principle of infinite channels seeking the path of least resistance to reach you. This is the recognition that abundance is not a single river you must painfully divert, but a vast water table beneath your feet, ready to surge through any opening you provide. A new idea, a surrendered doubt, an act of faith, flooding your reality with unexpected liquidity. This is where you shift from chasing specific sources of income to becoming a conscious conduit, polishing your inner vessel so clearly that supply can no longer distinguish between salary, investment, gift, or sudden opportunity, using all means to reach you. This is why it matters to release your white-knuckled grip on how the money should arrive, for that attachment is like kinking a hose, while your open-ended expectation unleashes a geyser of possibilities from directions your logical mind could never chart. This is the turning point where you celebrate a friend's windfall as your own, understanding the same source flows to all, and your genuine joy for others becomes a powerful signal that you know there is more than enough, opening your channel wider. This is where illusion fades from the concept of a single linear career path, as you watch income arrive from a forgotten royalty, a serendipitous consultation, or a market shift that benefits a dormant asset, each a separate channel you unconsciously unblocked by your state of being. This is the disciplined practice of acting as if you have 1,000 invisible benefactors, making decisions from a place of radical trust that the funds will be there, which in itself becomes the command that activates new channels. This is how a musician, dwelling in the feeling of being richly supported by her art, suddenly received a commission for a commercial, a grant for new equipment, and an inheritance from a distant relative, 3 distinct channels that appeared within the same month, each independent yet flowing from the same source of her assumption. This is the power of your consciousness as the master valve, where your dominant feeling of abundance does not just attract wealth, but actually pressures the universal aquifer to seek you out through the most efficient, surprising, and often delightful routes. This is the bridge between scarcity and overflow, engineered by your willingness to receive in whatever form prosperity chooses, releasing the poverty mindset that insists money only comes from sweat and time. This is where your life becomes a lesson in hydrological physics, demonstrating that water and wealth always finds the cracks, flowing through the channels of your interests, your relationships, and your relaxed, open-handed generosity. This is the pressure your expectation creates in the field, forcing the universe to innovate in its delivery methods, upgrading your experiences from a trickle of predictable income to a cascade of multifaceted prosperity. This is how your creativity becomes a direct tributary, as ideas you share freely circle back monetized, and connections you nurture without agenda become lucrative partnerships, each a channel you clean by operating without the sediment of transactionality. This is the silent intelligence of the flow, which knows the exact pressure and timing needed to irrigate the specific garden of your life, delivering not just money, but the perfect blend of resources to cultivate your fulfilled state. This is the evidence you see in the diversification of your blessings, where financial increase is accompanied by gifts of time, health, and love, all flowing from the same abundant source through different yet interconnected channels. This is the moment you realize you are not a beggar at a single stream, but a landowner sitting atop a limitless well, and your only task is to remove the mental rubble blocking its myriad springs. This is the surrender to the intelligence of supply, where you stop judging the channel and simply give thanks for the water, knowing its source is infinite and its ways are perfect. This is the ultimate liberation, financial abundance as a dynamic, multi-veined flow, responding in real time to the openness and expectancy you maintain within your own consciousness. Remember the first seed of this entire journey, that fragile thought of a possibility you dared to entertain, and see it now not as a seed, but as a fully grown tree you are already resting beneath. Its branch is heavy with fruit you can finally taste with your waking senses. This is the seamless integration where your assumption has completed its work in the unseen and now blossoms wholly into the seen, and you are no longer practicing a technique but inhabiting a fact, walking through a world that confirms your sovereignty with every encounter and transaction. This is where your desire has shed its skin of future event and emerged as your present environment, so ingrained in your daily experience that you now take its marvels for granted, the way one forgets to marvel at breathing. This is why it matters to pause in this new landscape and consciously recognize the miracles as mundane, for that is the ultimate proof of your success. The extraordinary has become your ordinary. The wish fulfilled is now simply life. This is the turning point where you discuss your finances from a place of calm narration, not anxious hope, detailing your assets and opportunities with the detached ease of someone describing the layout of their own home, a space they know intimately because they built it from the inside out. This is where illusion fades from the memory of longing, as the emotional ache of wanting is replaced by the quiet satisfaction of having, and you find it difficult to even recall the person who once felt separated from this abundance. This is the disciplined art of continual creation from this new plateau, where having manifested one wish fulfilled, you understand the blueprint and immediately begin applying it to grander horizons, never returning to the state of a beggar, but always operating as a conscious architect. This is how a couple, once visualizing a debt-free life, now finds themselves casually planning a second home, not from a place of new desire, but from the natural expansion of their already established state of abundance, where one wish fulfilled births the next from a foundation of certainty. This is the power of this lived truth, which rewires your entire perception of time, allowing you to see future desires as already done, their manifestation a foregone conclusion, requiring only the gentle, patient occupancy of their reality in your imagination. This is the bridge between being a manifester and being manifestation itself, where you are no longer creating your reality, but expressing it, as a sun expresses light, effortlessly, and without conscious strain. This is where your generosity becomes automatic and joy-filled, for you know yourself as a terminal in an infinite circuit, and giving generously is simply agreeing to be a clear channel, which further amplifies the flow. This is the pressure this state of completion exerts on every remaining area of life, inviting, even demanding, that all aspects of your existence rise to meet this new standard of harmony and plenty you have established. This is how your story becomes a testament to others, not through preaching, but through the quiet magnetism of your being, inspiring questions and sparking realizations in those still trapped in the loop of striving, without you needing to say a word. This is the silent legacy of your journey. A life that is its own argument, a walking, breathing demonstration of the law of assumption that needs no external validation, for its truth is self-evident in every relaxed breath and confident choice. This is the evidence that has transcended evidence, moving from synchronicities to substance, from hints to your unshakable foundation, making doubt not just irrelevant but impossible within the fortress of your current experience. This is the moment you realize the wish fulfilled was never about the object, but about the person it forced you to become, the sovereign, the creator, the God in the machine of your own reality, and the money was merely a symbol of that profound inner shift. This is the surrender to your own power, a graceful acceptance that you are the source, and the external world in all its abundant detail is forever and only a faithful echo. This is the ultimate existence, living from the end of every desire as a natural way of being, where imagination and reality have fused, and you dwell forever in the fruitful garden of your own fulfilled assumptions. Conclude with the realization that the world itself has not changed, but your eyes have been remade, and now you perceive through a lens where abundance is the default, lack is a forgotten dialect, and every moment is pregnant with the generosity of a universe responding to the command of your assumed self. This is the final, silent revelation where you understand that financial abundance was never a condition to be attained in the future, but a quality of consciousness to be claimed in the eternal now, a native language you simply needed to remember how to speak fluently. This is where your entire past narrative rewrites itself in your memory, not as a struggle, but as a necessary curriculum, where every perceived failure was a lesson steering you unerringly toward this mastery of your own creative power. This is why it matters to walk through this remade world with a sense of sacred responsibility, knowing your every thought is still a seed, but now you plant with the deliberate joy of a master gardener who understands the harvest is assured. This is the turning point where you see others still trapped in the dream of separation and feel only compassion, for you know the door out of that dream is not locked, and the key is the very imagination they are using to build their prison. This is where illusion fades from the concept of other sources. As you perceive the single, boundless source expressing itself uniquely through you, making every transaction, gift, and earning a holy communion with the infinite. This is the disciplined freedom of perpetual creation, where you maintain your wealth consciousness not through effort, but through natural remembrance like breathing, effortlessly attracting and releasing fortunes as you focus on ever grander expressions of life. This is how your legacy solidifies, not in the money that may pass through your hands, but in the undeniable demonstration you become, a life so vividly crafted from within that it stands as a living monument to the law of assumption for all who cross your path. This is the power of your permanence in this state, where external fluctuations in markets or economies are seen as mere waves on the surface of your ocean, unable to disturb the profound depths of your knowing and your connection to infinite supply. This is the bridge you have burned behind you, for there is no returning to the old poverty of mind. The path now only leads forward into deeper, richer dimensions of a reality you now know you are authoring in real time. This is where your gratitude becomes a cosmic force, a perpetual echo of recognition that further amplifies the signal of your oneness with Source, ensuring the flow is not just maintained but eternally expanded. This is the pressure your presence now exerts on the collective dream, subtly raising the frequency of possibility for everyone around you, simply by you being undeniably, consistently, and effortlessly abundant. This is how time collapses into a single point of perpetual fulfillment, where future goals are realized in the imagination with such vividness that their physical manifestation feels like a casual afterthought, a delightful confirmation of a truth already settled. This is the silent command your entire being now broadcasts, that this world of plenty is the only real world, and any appearance to the contrary is a shadow you have the power to illuminate with the sun of your awareness. This is the evidence that has become your atmosphere, The very air you breathe, so total and encompassing that you no longer look for signs, but instead generate them with your mere presence. This is the moment you realize you were never meant to understand the wish fulfilled as a concept, but to wear it as your skin, breathe it as your air, and know it as your only reality, forever. This is the surrender to being the creator, a role you can never again abdicate, for you have seen the machinery of reality and know it answers to the depth of your feeling and the clarity of your assumption. This is the ultimate beginning. This is the ultimate point. All of life becomes a playful exploration of how deeply and joyfully you can experience the infinite riches that have always and will always. Conclude with the realization that the world itself has not changed, but your eyes have been remade, and now you perceive through a lens where abundance is the default, lack is a forgotten dialect, and every moment is pregnant with the generosity of a universe responding to the command of your assumed self. This is the final, silent revelation, where you understand that financial abundance was never a condition to be attained in the future, but a quality of consciousness to be claimed in the eternal now, a native language you simply needed to remember how to speak fluently. This is where your entire past narrative rewrites itself in your memory, not as a struggle, but as a necessary curriculum, where every perceived failure was a lesson steering you unerringly toward this mastery of your own creative power. This is why it matters to walk through this remade world with a sense of sacred responsibility, knowing your every thought is still a seed, but now you plant with the deliberate joy of a master gardener who understands the harvest is assured. This is the turning point where you see others still trapped in the dream of separation and feel only compassion, for you know the door out of that dream is not locked, and the key is the very imagination they are using to build their prison. This is where illusion fades from the concept of other sources, as you perceive the single boundless source expressing itself uniquely through you, making every transaction, gift, and earning a holy communion with the infinite. This is the disciplined freedom of perpetual creation, where you maintain your wealth consciousness not through effort, but through natural remembrance like breathing, effortlessly attracting and releasing fortunes as you focus on ever grander expressions of life. This is how your legacy solidifies, not in the money that may pass through your hands, but in the undeniable demonstration you become. A life so vividly crafted from within that it stands as a living monument to the law of assumption for all who cross your path. This is the power of your permanence in this state, where external fluctuations in markets or economies are seen as mere waves on the surface of your ocean, unable to disturb the profound depths of your knowing and your connection to infinite supply. This is the bridge you have burned behind you, for there is no returning to the old poverty of mind. The path now only leads forward into deeper, richer dimensions of a reality you now know you are authoring in real time. This is where your gratitude becomes a cosmic force, a perpetual echo of recognition that further amplifies the signal of your oneness with Source, ensuring the flow is not just maintained, but eternally expanded. This is the pressure your presence now exerts on the collective dream, subtly raising the frequency of possibility for everyone around you, simply by you being undeniably, consistently, and effortlessly abundant. This is how time collapses into a single point of perpetual fulfillment, where future goals are realized in the imagination with such vividness that their physical manifestation feels like a casual afterthought, a delightful confirmation of a truth already settled. This is the silent command your entire being now broadcasts, that this world of plenty is the only real world, and any appearance to the contrary is a shadow you have the power to illuminate with the sun of your awareness. This is the evidence that has become your atmosphere, the very air you breathe, so total and encompassing that you no longer look for signs but instead generate them with your mere presence. This is the moment you realize you were never meant to understand the wish fulfilled as a concept, but to wear it as your skin, breathe it as your air, and know it as your only reality forever. This is the surrender to being the creator, a role you can never again abdicate, for you have seen the machinery of reality and know it answers to the depth of your feeling and the clarity of your assumption. This is the ultimate beginning, for from this vantage point, all of life becomes a playful exploration of how deeply and joyfully you can experience the infinite riches that have always and will always belong to you.